My brain says this, try this.
The St. Louis Cardinals don't know what an infield fly is, and I guarantee they know what an infield fly is.
And he struggled mightily, and I think that becomes an issue because now he's so criticized.
Talking
Overfluff.
over fluff. Too much fluff.
I think so.
Well, we're going to talk about it. Welcome, everybody, to the Hitting Zone podcast. That's where we take tough subjects and we crush those subjects. And if you like what you're doing, make sure that you follow me. I'm on Instagram at _MTS Performance. We're also on X with Hitting Zone STL. That's capital HZN STL. That's on Twitter, X, whatever you guys like to call it. TikTok is where I've been doing some of my best work lately. It seems like I got a lot of engagement there, which is I just use the Hitting Zone account there, which is just the Hitting Zone STL over there at TikTok. Big shout out Game 7 Baseball, game7baseball.com for the support of Youth Baseball Midwest. Make sure that you go out there. If you haven't already checked out their tournaments, make sure that you do that. They got a couple out of towns. You can travel to a few different places. You just don't have to stay in St. Louis or out at the WAC. And a big one that's coming up with Youth Baseball Midwest is the Super 7. So if you got a 14U team, make sure that you're looking into that event and you get yourself registered or reach out to Brian, see if that you can get in that event. I played in it last year. It was fantastic. Of course, naturally it rained on us. I think it was that event where we tried to get it in. It seemed like for whatever reason it rained a lot on us last year, but Prime Sports Midwest, big sponsor of the show. 3 locations: Fenton, Chesterfield, St. Peters. St. Peters is still closed. However, you can still order gear online. They'll ship it to you, or you can go to one of the other 2 locations and pick it up. YBM Club. This is important that you guys go out there. You get exclusive content from it. You get rankings, player breakdowns. We have the dad coaches thing coming out pretty soon. And so make sure that you join now for our legacy member pricing. Visit youthbaseballmidwest.com and click on the YBM Club tab and make sure you sign up because you get more views of my pretty face. So with that said, I'm excited about this show. You know that if you followed this show, any part of Youth Baseball Midwest, whether you're on our broadcast, you guys know I talk highly of Legion. And we have guys from Post 253 here. That's correct. And I'd like for you guys to introduce yourselves to our audience here at the Hitting Zone podcast.
Go ahead, Dylan.
Yeah, so my name's Dylan Black. I'll be the head coach of the Festus Legion this upcoming summer. I was an assistant last summer, and I was a player for the 3 seasons before that. I went to Herculaneum High School, so I'm right in the area. I played at Jefferson College and was kind of taught by Zach Bone, and that's kind of helped me to get this job here as the head coach for this upcoming summer, and I'm really excited for it.
Yeah, Jeremy Partney. This is the 3rd season as an assistant with Festus Legion. And then I played there in the late 90s, mid 90s for Pat Bone. And then I'm like Dylan, I went to Herky and I coached at Mineral Area College for a couple seasons. That's where I work now and that's where I'm at now. So I'm kind of doing this on the clock, but yeah, we're looking forward to this season.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that happen on the clock that we don't talk about, right?
Hopefully my boss remembers.
Well, I think there's a saying that's something about company time and dimes and stuff like that. I can't say that on the air because I promised Brian I wouldn't cuss on these shows. So anyways, I actually brought something. You see this red thing next to me. I can't believe I still have this. Don't know how, why, but I played for Post 338, Thoman Booth. I don't know if you can see that or not. I don't think Thoman Booth even plays anymore. I don't even think they have a team, which it's something that irks me because I think in some of those spaces we need that outfit because of the cost of Legion is significantly lower than club baseball. And, you know, it does give an out for our community to play baseball. And it kind of stinks because I can tell you right now, I don't have the time to invest in it. I have other things going on. And I know many people are like that today. So it's unfortunate, but that you can't find the right people. But Legion to me was at the time. So I graduated in 1998 from Rittner High School. And I did have roast beef, potatoes, ham at the wedding, the typical St. Louis stuff. Like, what high school did you go to? But anyways, Legion was so very important at that time because Legion was the best baseball that you could play in our space, hands down. It was a privilege to be able to make your Legion team, especially in that space that we had back in the North County area. In that late 90s, we had a lot of draft picks. You just met kids, those kinds of athletes that were coming through there. And it seems to have kind of pivoted and changed in recent years, at least in the St. Charles and St. Louis counties. And I was excited that Brian was able to get you guys on, just because I think small town baseball, Legion, is still alive and it's still strong. This one's for Jeremy. Kind of when you think about what it was 30 years ago to what it's like now, what are some of the biggest differences that you see from kind of when we played to now? Like even as far as rules and regulations on things like tryouts, stuff like that.
Well, I said this on another podcast. When I played, I do not remember a club team. Like, I don't remember. It was all American Legion teams, or you had Slaba, which was in St. Louis, but every good player in Jefferson County wanted to play for Festus Legion, or if they were, north, they would play for Rock. But when I got back into baseball, kind of coaching about 5 years ago, I was kind of blown away at all of the different options the kids had and how spread out everybody was. But yeah, it's a lot different. I think there's just more guys playing summer baseball, just more guys that are interested in playing, in college, and there's more opportunities at college. So I think that's part of it.
And Dylan, for you, like, so you're just kind of fresh out of this game, and obviously playing at Jeffco, you had to be a pretty good player in order to go to Jeffco and play. Did you play beyond Jeffco, or was that just 2 years and then you were done at Jeffco?
Just done a Jeff Cow. Nothing after
Gotcha.
that.
Gotcha. And you said that you played at Festus. What was the big decision for you on why you didn't chase club baseball versus playing at Festus?
Yeah, so after my freshman and sophomore year of high school, I did play, club baseball, whatever you want to call it. Um, it was really a matter of we really didn't ever think about going to the Legion because there was always some eligibility issues with Coach Bowen being the coach of Herky. And there was some issues with being able to play there. But once he left after my freshman year, we were kind of like, okay, Legion is, that's a really good program. It's a really good place to be. And then we're thinking about all of the different, pluses to it where, it's cheaper. We're playing for more than what it really is to play for. You play for 12 weekends in a summer and you're on a team of 12 guys that really care about themselves. And then once you play for a summer in Legion baseball, you realize how much more it means for everybody involved, coaches, players, the city of Festus in our case. And it's really like that was the draw to come back and to continue to try and be a part of it is because of how much that first summer opened my eyes to like this is really an extension of high school baseball, but it's just more competitive. It's better players playing for the teams, and it's really special in the summer.
And you talked about community, and there's things to this day that I still think about from my experiences with Legion, running from our fish fries on Fridays to raise money to do we did pizzas that we did to raise money so that we can do the things that we needed to do to keep the cost down for us. We were lucky enough to be able to travel out of state a few times. We went down to Alabama and played down in Alabama. Got to play at Hoover Metropolitan when it first opened. That was right around the same time that Michael Jordan had ran through there and played baseball. So how sweet was that? We got to play at Rickwood. And so being a part of watching that game with the Cardinals last year and seeing them guys sit on top of the dugout, and then seeing the Negro League athletes sitting on top of the dugout. And here I am sitting on top of that same dugout with I sent to text to my mom and was like, Mom, get those pictures out from when we were there. I get goosebumps when I talk about Legion because it was so built around community and high school baseball. And it was an extension of that. And what I've noticed about the small towns, man, you guys really rally around. Uh, the community really rallies around. We were in Washington for the I don't remember, excuse me, but maybe World Series or some sort of district play or championship, Mid South stuff that was
Regional.
happening. Yeah, regionals. And I thought, man, Washington did a heck of a job hosting. It was an awesome experience. I loved showing up to do these games, and the stadium was packed. I played at ABC Ballpark right next to the airport. We had fans all over that thing watching Legion baseball, whether it was our girlfriends or people we were asking to come to the game. There was such a big support staff behind it. We have a Saturday game against Post 213 in Maryland Heights, which was our biggest rival. We had barbecues and stuff going on. I mean, we had tailgate stuff happening. You don't see that with club baseball, and it drives me bonkers that we just go out there and we're going to shell out $1,500 a weekend for porta potties, and we're not even open. There's no concession stands, and yet we're paying this pretty penny just to go out and play a few games and then walk away and get nothing out of it. In my opinion, at the high school level, you don't play for a championship. You don't play to move on. And I think, Dylan, you said it. There's more to play for in Legion baseball because of how you can move on, the districts, etc. That isn't that the reason why we chose to play this game to begin with? Jeremy and Dylan both can answer that one. Dylan,
I
you
love.
being
Are you
able
talking
to,
about the
being able
post?
to once
Go ahead, Dylan.
Yeah, so once you get to, mid-July, everything is elevated so much, and that really is the best part of it. You have your, 5 weeks before then when you get to the district tournament and you think, okay, now it's really time. This is where you get to those, kind of like where your high school district tournament is, your high school, if some of the conferences play a conference tournament, your Final Four, your state tournament that we play for the Legion. I would love to hear somebody say that Legion baseball doesn't get any fans after they go to Sedalia and watch every game at the state tournament. It's a very special thing to see all the people that go there, how the cool environment it is, and all that baseball is such great baseball. You get so many 2-1 games, extra inning games. You get so many great games in that part of the season because it just means so much more than a consolation game on a Sunday after you play 3 games that weekend, right? It means so much more, and everybody's bought in that much more to it.
Yeah, regular season district games, postseason games are usually pretty intense. And the postseason, the further you go, like he said, we were in Sedalia this past summer. It was, especially when Sedalia played, it was full. And that was, I think, great for our players. It was fun. That part of the season I just absolutely love is the postseason. And you kind of try not to think about the postseason or look forward too much, but you can't help it. But I think that's one thing American Legion Baseball has that's probably one of its neatest features is the postseason. It gets really, really fun. And I did go out to the regional tournament kind of by myself last year. Washington hosted it, and I was pretty blown away by if it was a night game, the crowds were really good. Washington is a first class program. They did everything the right way. Some of the teams were just fantastic teams like Bossier City, Columbia, Tennessee. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. And the postseason is the most fun part of the season for sure.
Yeah, I think you could say that just about anything. And that's the one thing that you don't have in club baseball is I don't think you have anything to play for. And then if you're an elite level athlete, and that's a loosely termed word for the most part, but if you're a true national type player, you're not even here anyways and playing in these goofy events that they have local. I mean, you're going to play in the premier stuff and you're not really focused on the next journey. It used to be anything that even as we got into club baseball and it started, there was always something to play for. You had to win one thing to go to the next thing. If you had to win that thing to go to the next thing. And so you had something to play for. That's all gone. I'm not saying that that's a good or bad thing. I know that, Jeremy, you brought this up and say there's more availability to all these athletes. And I do think it's necessary. I do think it's awesome that we have more kids playing baseball, but they could play rec baseball. If we could just buy into the fact that we have all these nice fields, baseball size, adult size field, high school size fields, they're not being used in the summer because there's no baseball being played at them because it's all youth. Or excuse
Right.
me, I should say under high school ages. So up to 14U, and it's like it's drives me crazy to see places like Ozzy's up here not being used on the high school side. Um, because we don't have the mediocre or below level players going there. We have organizations keeping them so that we can continue to fill the pocketbook is kind of how I feel about that. And again, I am a club owner. I'm part of an organization, and I'm not saying that the business model is terrible. I just think as a parent, I would want to try to make a better decision and understanding what my kid is versus going, I get to play for this. It's not about that. You're not really going to go nowhere because I didn't either. And I was a pretty good player. I got a chance to play in college. I was pretty good in my area. I was pretty good to play Legion, but it meant something to me. And so I just wish that we would make those decisions and encourage families to actually understand what their athletes are. And I think that's probably the biggest thing that we don't like to admit is that maybe my kid isn't good enough. But we have to do a better job of encouraging. That doesn't mean you can't play baseball. It doesn't mean that you can't get better. It just means at that moment you're not good enough. But anywho, I I I would like to know from you guys kind of the process. I kind of want to go from the whole thing, like when tryouts started, and to kind of give you a little background on me, Jeremy. I'm not sure how it was for you. We weren't allowed to try out for Legion baseball until after high school had ended that season. So if I was playing in 1996 high school season, I couldn't try out until my season was over. I could try out the very next day. Sometimes they would have Legion tryouts posted while we were still playing. If we were in playoffs like districts, that happened to me 3 times. While at Rittner, we were playing district ball when we had tryouts. But I couldn't participate in tryouts until after I was done. Is that still very similar for Legion today, or can you actually try out sooner?
I don't know the answer to that. I mean, I know that we have our tryouts, or at least this past year, pretty close to after the season, or as close as we could. Back when I played, I think tryouts were. I think it did have to wait until after the high school season was over, but it does seem like everyone tries to get their tryouts out there as quickly as possible to get players to commit, to get the money coming in. And if you have tryouts later, it's probably not a good idea. But I do kind of remember that being the case when I played, that we had to wait. It was pretty strict. We had to wait until the high school season was over. Dylan could answer. I cannot remember when we had tryouts this past fall, but it was more like September-ish, maybe.
Yeah, we had them scheduled for mid-September, and then it kept raining on us, so they ended up being the first week of October. But
That's right.
I think most Legion teams now try and get their team solidified as early as possible because of, well, mainly because you have your junior team that feeds your senior team, so you know really who you're going to have. You know the rough number of kids that are going to be moving up. So usually you're not trying to fill 14 guys. You're trying to fill 6 spots, maybe 5 spots if you're lucky to have a lot of guys coming in. But we had ours in September, and we're pretty full as of right now because we're trying to we want to get away from the guys that come in May, on May 20th and try and playing games on June 1st. That's a very common thing with leagues and stuff right now is pulling a lot of, especially college freshmen, pulling a lot of them who decide not to play in a collegiate league. They commit to play for a Legion team 6 days before the first game, and it's very, it gets very unorganized, and they're not really part of the team yet. It takes them 3 weeks to get a part of the team. It's really unorganized, so we really try to get ours as solidified as early as possible. That way, we can really know who we're rolling out come June.
Yeah, back in I would say the late 90s for me, I know that we had the ability to play as a high school freshman based on your birth date. I graduated high school at 17 years old, so I could play 18U.
That was me, and I think it was Dylan.
Yeah,
We both
and
played baseball.
now it seems
I
like
did.
they've gained a year though, right? Now you could be 19 and under, correct?
Yeah,
And
it's a good, and I think that's a will be a good thing for us because that a lot of these club teams go up to 17U, 18U, and then we go 19U. And I played for Festus Legion after my freshman year playing at Mac, and it was the best option. I mean, there was other things out there like the St. Louis Metro Collegiate League, but we had so much pride in playing for Festus Legion. I never even considered going somewhere else. And so hopefully we can get some older guys that are, wanting to play team baseball for a summer, and guys that need work. And but yeah, we're a little bit older now. I think it was 18 and under when I was playing.
How do you deal with that with getting like a high school or excuse me a freshman pitcher who may not have got the innings that they needed wherever they were at? Do you work closely with those college coaches, or do you just kind of work with the athlete and say, hey, what are are you on any limits? Does your school want anything, or is there communication like that happens when you have that kid that's a freshman in college?
We really haven't had that with having a player that has. It's usually been like kind of assumed. I know. A couple years ago, I played my freshman year of college, and I had already committed to play for the Legion. That last summer, saying there's no way I'm not coming back. If there were to be a situation where we know of a guy that has played with us before that goes and plays his freshman year of college that we think might come back, but his coach is wanting him to go play in a collegiate league, we would definitely be communicating pretty heavily with the players throughout that season, just trying to get some information on, okay, is it worth us taking this guy on if he can only throw, 2 games for us this summer, or is it worth this guy because he's only going to be able to play until, mid-June or something like that. But it it definitely takes a lot of communication just because college coaches want it so different for some players. Some coaches would love their guys to go play 40 games in the summer, and some wouldn't want them to play anything at all, right? So it definitely takes a lot of communication when working with those guys.
I want to talk about the schedule a little bit, and just to ask some variances of it. When I and Jeremy, I'm assuming that this happened for you, and I don't know that it's like this. Another thing that I don't like about club baseball is expectations during the week, and then arm injuries. And I think a lot of injuries happen because we play so many games in such little time. There's no real recovery. Then you get back to Monday. You might have the day off Monday, and then you hit on Tuesday, and you don't throw again. You're not doing all these things, and you're playing with these small rosters. When I think about Legion, we had maybe played 3 times a week, maybe 4, and then we practiced twice and had one off day. So we were always playing. We always had rest periods. If our pitchers threw so many pitches, they didn't touch a baseball for so many days. Like it was a thought process. I don't know if there was rules. That's just what the coach's expectations were, that if you pitched and you threw this many pitches, you weren't going out and playing a secondary position. If you played in a doubleheader or the next day, you had to wait. You had to be able to throw. You had to be able to throw long toss. Like there was like things that we had to do in order to. I didn't pitch, by the way, but be a part of to uh, make sure that we were healthy and avoid injuries. And I swear all I see is Thursday, you have a kid that throws 85 to 100 pitches, turns around, plays shortstop, 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 may even throw another 30 pitches somewhere else there for your club team. And it's like, dude, what are we doing? And then they don't throw again until that very next weekend. They're barely playing catch when they're at practice. It's half-assed anyways. And so when I think about like this thing that we call club baseball, like what is Legion's schedule like? Is it very similar? 4 games a week, 3 days, or 2 practices. What is a week like for Legion baseball?
From what I can tell and from what I've been around, it's a little bit, for most Legion programs, for a lot of the small town Legion programs, it's a little bit more than your club baseball, your travel baseball, whatever you want to call it. You get, two midweek games against other Legion teams most likely, and then you play a long tournament that weekend. But in addition to that, you're practicing every day too. We'll probably get in the first 3 weeks, probably first month, we'll probably get one day off a week, and that'll be more of like a recovery day just to get guys a day off after a long tournament. And we're going to practice, every single day throughout that week that we're not playing games. And then once you get later on in the season where, it's 115 degrees every single day and we've played, 25 games already, that's whenever we'll kick it to 2 to 3 practices a week and maybe an optional hitting every now and then there. But our guys are going to be taking very intentional. Our practices are going to be very intentional with like getting guys healthy throughout the season and not burning them out on June 15th, whenever we still have a month and a half left to go. But in comparison, like the club baseball thing, it's you play that tournament, you pitch one time, you play catch on Tuesday that week, and then you go pitch again on Saturday, and it's really not normal because whenever they're playing high school baseball, they're playing catch every single day at practice. They're pitching one time a week, most likely, if they're a starter. They're playing catch every single day. They're recovering, and then they stop, and then you get to June, and they're pitching one time, same thing, but they're playing catch one time throughout the week, and they're going and doing whatever they do throughout the summer, and they're not. It's a shock for their entire body. Catchers especially really take the beating out of that because they're working every single day, and they're catching long days in the summer, and they need days to rest, but not just sit on their couch all day. They need to be working through their bodies and conditioning themselves. And club baseball guys, a catcher might go catch 4 7 inning games in a weekend, sit on his couch the whole next week, and then next thing you know, that next Friday he's got knee problems because he caught and then did absolutely nothing to fix himself throughout that next week, and then he's trying to do the same thing over again and really messing himself up.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
Jamie.
I mean, I think Dylan covered a lot there. One of the things that him and I will keep an eye on is like how many innings that our pitchers throw in the spring. The guys that are currently on our summer roster, some of these guys are the aces of their staff, and they'll throw 45, 50, 60. So that could determine, how much we use them. But it is different as far as like the weekends and then nothing during the week. I know this summer for sure, we're not going to be that way. We're going to have more practices and have more games. And I think that is a little bit better for the players to kind of be out there a little bit more often and then have a day off, be out there 2 or 3 days and then have a day off, and ideally play as many games as we can. But we have a lot of guys that we need to get innings. We have a lot of guys that we need to get at bats. So our schedule probably will be a little bit bigger schedule and a few more practices this summer for sure.
How many games, Dylan, did you play in college?
You mean throughout the season?
Yeah, just one season.
Roughly, I would think it's 40. The number's about 40, a little more than that probably.
An easy 40
Which is
plus
a lot once
playoffs.
you get to the end.
Yeah, right. Jeremy, how many did you play at Mac?
50. Yeah, 40's light. 50. We never got through the Region 16 tournament, so I'd say 45 to 50. And then I remember in 96 when I played Legion Ball, we played 60, 50 and 10. And then the summer before that, I think it was like 45, 50. So you add all that up, it's a lot of games. I mean, and that I think really helps the guys get a lot better. But that's part of what Legion Baseball is about, is trying to kind of expose them to what they're going to see at the college level. And a lot of that is a lot of games and just making that adjustment.
That's exactly where I was going, Jeremy, with that was the fact, and that's why I asked, is I played at Missouri Western. So we actually had some kids from Mac that probably you played with. I'm not sure if Adam Tritz went to Mac or not and then transferred.
Played with them. Yep.
Yes.
And then Jeff Floppy, Danny Payne.
Yep, Danny, good old Danny Payne. Was he really?
He was.
Yeah, so I was they were juniors when I was a freshman when I got to Missouri Western. They were juniors, so they had spent their 2 years. I still talk to Tritzy quite often, actually. He uses my facility. But anyways, the point was getting into how many games are being played and then the expectations behind those games. And, if you play 7 to 8 weekends in a club ball, you get, let's just say you play on 4. So you're getting 30 games there with 14 practices. That doesn't seem right, because you're only practicing once or twice a week and it's one outdoor practice. And yet these kids are always, this is the biggest complaint that I get throughout a season. The first couple of weeks of club ball, it's usually typically fine. It's the end of the summer that's the grind, the biggest grind. They'll come in after playing high school baseball, whether it's district play or beyond, and they're locked in. They're playing catch every day. They're throwing every day. They're doing all these things every single day, and they're locked in. I can't control things. I can have practice, and I can have open gyms, and I can do all the things that are necessary. But at the end of the day, those kids have to still and want to show up. Well, once school's over, they don't want to do nothing. And there's no pride in going out and playing catch every day. And literally, when you have Legion baseball, you're doing something every day and you're continuing to build what we're going to try to play for next. And so I ask kids all the time, do you really want to play college baseball? Because they think that this college baseball is this biggest dream or whatever. It's the dream outcome for everybody. Nobody understands how hard it is. You know, the three of us on this call definitely know how hard it is, especially the junior college level, because I'm sure you guys got it kicked in all the time because of the way they try to get you out of there as fast as possible. You know what I mean? And so for me, we had our roster. You know, we had our scholarship players. We were fine. You know what I mean, at the Division II level, and we had just gone Division II right around that time frame from NAIA to D2, and we were 10-46 my freshman year. My freshman year was terrible, blown out like a lot often, and you know that we flipped that around, and it was just experiencing what it was like to recruit at that level. So we had to go through things that were tough. It wasn't easy, and for some reason, these young people think that because it's club baseball, like life is easy, and it's like, no, man, go play Legion baseball and see the schedule, and you guys obviously had gone through that, and I want to know how you guys work your development. This is I know I ran into this, but the thing that I think that parents might argue and saying why they go choose club maybe versus Legion is the big word, the big D word. It's probably gonna get in trouble for that. Is it FFA or whatever gonna delete that? But anyways, the big development word, right? So and we're going to do a show about this. I'm going to do it with Shane Eames on what does actual development mean. And, that's the big push, right, for club baseball is development, 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 right? So, yeah, you get your 6-week, cool, 12-week program, whatever organization you're in, you get it. That's the development side of it. So what do you guys do to kind of encourage athletes, or you're selling, I don't want to say selling, but what do you guys do to encourage families to say, this is what we do here at Legion, this is what we're developing, this is how our program goes, and that's through the fall, winter, preparing for high school, post high school. What is that like for you guys?
Well, whenever you compare it to, a travel baseball team, usually the big draw they have is they have a big, beautiful facility to do it in. That's usually, you can post a picture of your 14 hitting tunnels you have in a big, nice place. We really don't have that. We're doing our practices at Jefferson College in their indoor facility. And another draw we have is that, players are one of 15 guys on a team, maybe not one of, 200 in an organization. And, with us practicing every day and us doing winter workouts now for the first time this winter, we're able to really take on, a lot more time individually with guys because we don't have many coaches, but we have not as many players to where we're able to say, okay, I'm working with this kid all day today. And it's really not going to affect everybody else because we don't have, we have multiple other coaches to work with those guys. But the amount of time we're putting into it, they're getting a lot more reps than if they were to be a part of a 40-man, a 3-team, 17U team program. And, there's 45 guys that are all trying to be coached by 4 guys. We've got 3 or 4 coaches that can help our 14 guys get better every single day throughout the summer and throughout the winter. It's able to be a lot more individualized. It's like going to a smaller school, right? There's more teachers to students. Your students get a little more individualized instruction. It's the same way with Legion ball. Most Legion teams are very small personnel with the coaches, but they're also, considerably less players throughout the program. Even through if you have a freshman, a junior, and a senior team, there's not nearly as many players to work through and try and get as if in comparison to a travel baseball team that's got 3 teams at each level.
Yeah, all that I agree with. And just team baseball, I think, is the biggest thing. Like, you're gonna try to play in college. You guys have learned, you've upped your velocity, and as pitchers, you've upped your exit velocity as hitters. That's great. Now, can you throw strikes? And then as a hitter, now can you put the ball in play? And you gotta create value and show that value to the head coach at the college level, or you're just not going to be out there. And they want team guys. They want guys that aren't going to walk a bunch of guys. They want guys that are going to go to class. They want guys that are going to help them win. So hopefully, you know, the Legion ball, and it's been this way forever, but I think it's just a lot about exposing them to what's next. And these head coaches at the college level, they don't care if you throw 87 or 95. They care if you get guys out and help them win games. And they don't care if your exit velocity's 105 or 98 or 91 or whatever. How often are you getting on base? How many runs are you scoring? I mean, how are you helping them play winning baseball at that level? And a lot of the college coaches I talk to, are you also someone they want to spend a year around? Like, is this someone that I want to be around for a year? Is this the type of kid that's going to drive me nuts, not go to class? Is he going to get in trouble? So they need to learn these lessons before they go. Um, I do like a lot of the personal development. I think they're doing a better job with pitchers as far as unlocking velocity, and they're better at that than they used to be. And we kind of like our guys to have individual instructors, but once it gets to the summer, it's time to compete, time to play team baseball, time to start winning and learning how to win.
There was a lot to digest there, Jeremy, and kind of what you said that I don't know if this is old fashioned. I feel like Dylan has kind of that old mind about himself on what he expects. And the first time these kids go to, especially like in the large area, and I think club baseball is more in the larger towns like St. Louis, and St. Charles County. And, I think about culture. I don't think most of these kids can build culture that are 21 to 23, 24 years old coaching. I don't think that they can build culture inside of a club program. I don't think they understand what it was like because that's where they came from. So it's just this, let's go play baseball. Let's show up whenever we can. There's no consequences for it because you're not going to have the tough conversations, things like that. And all of a sudden you walk into your college campus and you're not ready for when you don't meet curfew, what happens? Or if you're, 10 minutes before practice starts, but on time is 15 minutes early and you're, only 10 minutes early, what still actually is required to happen? I mean, my first experience of coaching college ball is one of my favorites that she did. I coached college softball at Wash U, and our head coach was big on 15 minutes. Was she said 2:00, you were there at 1:45. We had one of the athletes show up at about 1:50. I mean, just running, just dead sprint, like everything that you would want out of somebody that was, a little bit late. She gets there and she's like, "You're late." She's like, "Well, coach," she says, "It's okay, you're late." And she kept trying to give these excuses, right? Coach said, "Okay, you don't have to run, but your team's going to run. You're going to sit here and watch with the rest of the coaching staff." This athlete had to sit there and watch the rest of the team run for every minute that she was late was times 2 poles, right? So we ran the outfield fence, whatever. And I mean, just bawling, she was crying. And I felt so bad for her, but the message was louder than anything because as she was crying, those kids of the team looked at her and go, "Stop crying. We got you. Stop crying. We got you. Get over it." And it was the culture that was built without even trying to. Sure, those athletes were ticked off. They didn't do anything wrong. They did everything right. But it's always the we're only as strong as our weakest link kind of thing. I'm not saying she was our weakest link. She was a good player, but it's like you're trying to build up everything with the expectations. She was a freshman. She never did it again. I can tell you that. And it like, how many kids would quit? I've watched so many baseball players walk in their fall and I had a kid, this is no joke, goes into fall campus and the head coach says to him, "You're not going to play every day. We have a 23-year-old kid in front of you that is really darn good, that transferred as All-American junior college player that's playing in front of you. Here's what your job's going to be." Actually identified his job. You're going to bunt, you're going to run the bases, and you're going to steal bags from me. We're not redshirting you. He left. He left. They went to the D2 College World Series. Yeah. You had a chance to play for something special and you left because you didn't want to go through the grind because you thought you deserved more. And it's like, No, dude, that guy gets paid. His livelihood is required to win.
Yes.
He is not worried about your feelings. You know what
Nope.
I mean? And I think that's where we miss in the club scene too, is because we can't say those kinds of things because somebody paid $4,000 to go play baseball. We can't hold them accountable because they feel entitled to say whatever the heck they want to say. But when I say what I gotta say, nobody likes that kind of stuff. And um I do miss the competitive desire that Legion uh, was when I played, and I'm assuming going through the Mid South regions and watching Columbia and Bossier, and I know that Festus is good because I've watched you guys as high school programs, DeSoto and all those guys down there. They're all really darn good. I know that there's got to be something that you look for when you play your rival. I don't have that when
Uh,
I'm playing club baseball.
Competitive spirit in the district games is good. Really, really good, especially when we'll play this year St. John, Rock Memorial. Um, and then, yeah, some other games will pop up, like if we play Washington or just any other team that we know is really legit, really established, and then the postseason. But the competitive spirit aspect still is there. And it gets better kind of as the season goes along, and especially if the team's good and people are getting excited. But I still see that. I see a lot of similarities to how it was back when I played. But um, there's so many games, and you might have a game that's a little flat. That's just how baseball goes if you play enough games. So it's hard to get the guys to focus and be really intense and really into it all the time. But I know our district games are really uh, to me, they feel really intense, and then the postseason to me feels like you just are dying over whether you're not going to advance or not. I mean, at least that's how the coaches feel. So
Yeah, those. I mean, those. Even the Tuesday night 6 p.m. district game against Rock Memorial, those get very exciting on all fronts. Fans get really into it. There's very few district play Legion games that you don't really see a full crowd. I don't know if you. I mean, Jeremy, you've obviously noticed that, and and that's because it means a lot. Those games determine seeding for the district tournament, which really matters whenever you talk about going to the postseason. And all those games, those are guys that usually, in our sense, Rock Memorial has guys from, Windsor, and Festus plays Windsor, right? So you've already got pre-established high school rivalries that are going to bleed into the summer, and then you've got guys that really don't like each other. Maybe they do really like each other, and they're playing against their friends and they want to beat them really bad, or they're playing against guys that they can't stand and they really want to beat them bad. I know from personal experience that those rivalries really do, bleed over into June. You just lost to that team in May in the district tournament. You really want to beat them up in June now. So, and especially in July, whenever you're eliminating them from the postseason. So St. John's definitely one of the ones that it feels like, we always have really good games against stuff. Festus, we've always been a pretty, winning program in the past, and St. John has been that same way. So I've had the pleasure of playing a lot of really good games against St. John. And this summer I'm sure we'll have some more against them and Rock Memorial and other teams like that. Um, just to go back to what you guys were saying earlier about like development and some of the draws of Legion baseball, one of the things that we really do take pride in is having guys that are great people too. And Jeremy touched on this, but throughout those games that get really heated, it's really cool because we want to have guys that are gonna win, but they're gonna they'll beat the heck out of somebody, but they'll win with class and they'll do it the right way. And if we're gonna do it the right way, we're gonna bunt, we're gonna run the bases really well, which a lot of club teams really don't do. You're trying to hit home runs. But we're gonna play the game the right way. We're gonna play a lot of small ball. Any team that played us last summer knows that we really bought into the strategy of we're gonna steal as many runs on the base paths as possible, and we really did it every single game last summer, and that'll absolutely continue into this season. But part of the Legion baseball approach is that we're playing real baseball, and it's an extension of your high school season, but it's really just trying to win as many games as possible because they're all important. But if we have the right guys doing it, where they're great people to be around, they're all great friends. We enjoy being around them as coaches, and we're proud to say, if a guy, I said this the other day at our parent meeting, if a guy goes and wins Player of the Game for newspaper or something like that, and we see, so and so wins it, we're like, oh, absolutely, he's part of our team. We love that. We don't want to have a guy that's, we see something bad about him and think, oh crap, he's on our team, right? And Legion baseball, especially here at Festus, we really take pride in having great people on our roster, and that comes with having great families that are also bought into it on all levels, freshman, junior, and varsity.
Yeah, true buy-in of community is huge. I've noticed that when we were at the Mid-South and we'd have game breaks, the crew would have to do all their busy work. I was lucky enough that I could get up, go walk around, and because I don't know how to manage any of the computers and stuff like that, but I could hear parents just devastated that they took an L. They didn't blame a certain kid. They didn't blame the coaching staff. Like they were just frustrated that team lost, right? And it was like it wasn't what they should have done better, or that kid needed to go 0 for or have 2 hits and this, that, and the other. It's like the game. They understood that the game was hard as well, and sometimes you just have to tip the cap. But they're upset, and instead of blaming people, it was, well, we got to go to work. Coach. Hopefully, coach gets them there 30 minutes earlier so they can hit some more because they hit like crap today, or whatever the case may be. And it's like, dude, I just love the intensity of the crowd matches the intensity that you guys play with, and you just don't have that in club ball. It's boring. I mean, club baseball is truly boring. And I don't. And again,
when you think about it from the random pool play game on a Saturday, there's not many people that are super bought into what they're doing. The players are more worried about going 3 for 4 than they are about winning the game. So it doesn't matter nearly as much as it does whenever you're playing for anything important when it comes to Legion baseball.
I can't coach that. I mean, I can coach that because I did for a few years because I made some money doing it. But like that's another thing. I don't. You guys don't get paid to do this. You guys do this as volunteers, correct?
Yes, I'm a volunteer. Yes.
Most head coaches are paid, but it's not nearly as much as you could go make coaching for a club team that really doesn't matter to win anything for.
Yeah, and you don't even build relationships like you had talked about, like you said, building grown men, or building men to become good men or good people. And it's like, what do you do in a club ball because you have them once a year, and next year they're going to move somewhere else, or that coach doesn't stay, and there's just a lot of things that I'm being nitpicky on, but I'm frustrated just with what we think baseball is in my space. And I'm jealous of the experiences that you guys have, and I can't get people to buy into like playing Legion baseball up in my neck of the woods. And I know that Anselm's got some good things going that he's trying to do over there at Wentzville. And I think we have some great players over there. And it's like, man, go play for that guy. Go have those experiences. And listen, for everybody that's out there in the St. Charles County area, St. Louis, Festus, if you want to drive up and use some of my space, it's a long drive for you, but come up and use my space if you need something. I know you're not going to do that, but I want to support Legion baseball because it meant so much to me, and it still does because of the things that I get a chance to see. So what would you guys say? Somebody that, and I need you to try to put on my hat, right? Like, so my hat in St. Louis County, St. Charles County areas that they're deciding to play club or Legion baseball. Why would you tell them? I think you've already said it, but I want to ask it specifically. Why does Legion matter, and why should they choose Legion baseball maybe over club baseball?
First thing I would ask them, and this any kid I talk to, is what are you looking for in a summer baseball program? So if they're looking to be a part of something, special, 253 has a great tradition. If they're looking to learn team baseball and prepare for college, I think one of the attractive parts of club baseball is there is a lot of travel that kind of goes along with it. And for a lot of these families, that part, like, that's attractive to them. So they go, I know some teams go to Florida, they go all over the place, but tradition, coaches that aren't dads, coaches that aren't, guys that are, just kind of showing up and just writing out the lineup and then see what happens. But 253 has always been about a lot trying to give the players a baseball education, the baseball education that they deserve before they go to college, so they're more ready for it. And it's just always been about preparing these guys for the college level. The hard part of it, not like it's going to be a grind. You need to get used to the grind. You guys need to get used to hard. You need to get used to being tired and learning how to deal with it. And but everyone's different. There's some guys that just kind of have the attitude that they want to take a summer kind of off and they want to get a few innings and at bats. And if that's the case, then that's usually not a guy that, we want on our team.
Yeah, usually, I mean, the biggest thing from a parent's perspective or a family's perspective is you look at the price tag that's compared to Legion baseball to club baseball. Some club baseball teams are robbing people every single week whenever they ask for a paycheck. And whenever you look at Legion baseball and you compare the level of play that happens, or maybe the facilities they play at, maybe it makes sense because they're playing at the same field every day and they're playing tournaments at other high school fields. But then you think, okay, it's only it's less than $1,000 to play there, but they're going to play 45 games this summer. They're going to practice every day and they're going to have a lot of fun doing it. That, in my opinion, is the biggest draw for families to come and play, is because they realize how much cheaper it is. And then when you think of and Jeremy mentioned tradition there, a place like where we're at with the Festus Legion, there's a tradition to win, obviously, here, but we have had a lot of really great people, a lot of really high level college players come through here. 2019, when they went to the World Series, I think about half that team went to go play college baseball, Division I baseball, and those are teams that come around every now and then, and kids can have the ability to be a part of that for a much cheaper price than they can be a part of another club team for $5,000 a summer if they need to. But the amount of games that happen is also a big draw, because some teams, they may, if it goes for a pitcher for another team and in the club baseball, they may throw, I don't know, 7 to 12 games in a summer, but they might not matter at all. But you look at a Legion schedule, they're going to throw every single conference game, similar to how they throw all the important conference games, the rivalry games in high school, and then they're going to go pitch in the postseason. It's really cool for that pitcher to say, "Oh, I'd much rather go throw 100 pitches in the state tournament than at a random tournament in wherever, at whatever complex." But in my opinion, and it goes back to the tradition part of it, the very biggest draw that we have, that we can pull players in with and families in with, especially, is that we are a community baseball program. We play for the city of Festus, and all other Legion teams. St. John plays for the city of St. John. It's very special once you see the amount of people that donate things, that are really bought into it, that really care about what we do. We have a lot of alumni that really, I'm one of them that is very recent. I wanted to be a part of this program. I'm really bad. I would be lying if I said that whenever I was a junior in high school that started playing for the Legion, that I didn't want to be the head coach of the Legion someday. I always, as soon as I was into it, I thought, I really want to be a part of this for a long time. And there's a lot of alums around here that feel the same way. Jeremy, you're one of them. You're a part of a class that really cares about the success of this program, and you don't get that with club baseball. There's a lot of people that really want us to win and want us to win the right way. So the fact that we're a community baseball team, we play for something really important, is a huge draw for us to get players in, and especially the right players, the guys that we want.
Yeah, it's always going back to almost the same thing. It's like, what are you truly preparing these kids for? Because ultimately, that's what we're supposed to be doing. And it's just all of it, right? The encompassing piece of it. I love how you guys kind of presented that to the families, because at the end of the day, it's not really like, they'll pay whatever they want to pay to go experience whatever they, club baseball or Legion baseball. What's most important for me, what I heard out of that, is what you're getting out of the overall experience. Let's take out the obvious of tradition, because I obviously out here we in CNH or St. Peter's, they had a good one. We had Thurman Booth, we had O. McGuire, Maryland Heights. We've had some things that just rivalries poured over, like you said, from high school baseball into Legion baseball, and they were just as heated in summer than it was there. But you literally play, say 20 to 25 games to 30 games in high school, and you go play 50, you're playing 80 games in a summer. That is awesome, right? And then you're practicing in there, and then the whole time, all I can hear is how you're getting better, right? Everybody knows the more that you do something, the better that you're going to get, right? That's why we have some of the problems that we have with club baseball, and why they go backwards, and then they try to regain it in the fall, is because they try to turn it back on. Well, they turn it off. They don't really, to be honest with you, I don't even think they really care. I'm talking about average athletes. I'm not talking about elite level kids. They are doing what they need to do all year long. It's become a rich man's sport. And so those kids you could afford all that kind of stuff. to me, Legion, it has a special place in my heart. So my last question to you guys, Dylan, and I'm not sure if you can answer this one. Jeremy might be able to, but everything from the equipment that we used to have, uniforms, the way that we talked about tryouts, the way that the fields are these days. What are things that, like, today's players, if they could learn something, what would shock them about 30 years ago to compare to like right now in Legion baseball? What is something that you think about? Just I think about our bats. I mean, look at this thing. This thing is
Bats.
all. Look at that. That's all.
Yeah.
That's all got all kinds of whatever. But look at that little 338. That was our uniform. How
Yeah.
plain is it? We were black,
I
white, and
was
red.
I was gonna say the bats. Do you remember the 2 3/4 bats with
Oh,
the 8 differential? Like it, in off. That's when offense exploded in college baseball. I remember. I think USC won the national championship game 21-14. But I remember pitching in a fall game at Ren Lake, and I threw a changeup, and the changeup almost hit the plate. It was so low, and the guy just stuck his bat out there, and the ball went off the fence, hit the fence. But that was that era of those baseball bats where it was just crazy. You couldn't even throw anything near the strike zone or the guy. You either had to strike the guy out or he was going to hit it hard. And I was not a strikeout pitcher, but that part sticks out to me. It was a much more offensive game. Nowadays, it seems like like especially our district games and postseason, they're low scoring, which I'm a pitching guy. I like that a lot more. I'm a lot more comfortable coaching in those games. And the bunt defenses and the first and third, all of that stuff is my favorite stuff during the game. But yeah, I mean, it's a different era, totally different. It was kind of more like, football type scores in a lot of games. And you don't see that as much in what we're doing now.
who's the yeller of you two? One of you guys got to yell at these kids.
I yell.
It's
I mean, I think both. It. I guess we'll wait and see. If I just don't like when the guys they're too hard on themselves, or if they're too down after a loss, or if they're too up after a win, because it's like you're neither one of you're not the bad news bears when you lose, and you're not the 27 Yankees when you win. There's a lot of randomness to the game of baseball, but I just hate seeing them hang their head after a loss, and I hate seeing them get a little too cocky after a win. Um, but then I get mad during first and third stuff practice, um, bunt defenses, and then if we have a pitcher that's walking guys, I usually I can't hold it in. Like, like I have to interject. I know that that's just the way I am, but hopefully I can control myself a little bit better. But Dylan's a good leader. He's going to do a great job. He has the right temperament for it, so I'm looking forward to this summer.
Dylan, are you the
yeah. I think we'll know in July who the yeller boss is going to be. I think we'll figure it out by then.
I'm pretty sure that you could probably tell that that's me. I am that voice. That is I love this game so very much, and it's something that saved my life. Baseball did, right? So it gave me an outlet when I struggled with whatever the family dynamic was with divorced parents and. Being a fat little redheaded kid and getting made fun of and just the things like that. Like sports gave me the out. So the one thing that I have is a lot of desire, and it's so very hard to find kids having that same desire at the club level because there's just nothing there. And I think that's why I like Legion baseball so much. That's why I loved being able to work that event with Brian at the Mid-South Regionals at Washington. And hats off to you guys for keeping Legion alive in Festus. And again, I think anything that we can tell these people out here in St. Charles County, St. Louis County, Legion doesn't have to be what you think it is. Legion used to be what every major leaguer, if you were a major leaguer in the 80s and 90s, maybe even early 2000s, you played Legion baseball.
Yep.
And maybe you got to go to the WWBA or whatever was in Omaha or Nebraska, wherever that event used to be. And I played Montclair baseball just on the other side of the river to you guys over in Valmeyer and everything like that, which, by the way, that I love that community event during 4th of July. But the guys that I talked to over there all played Legion baseball. They're like, what is club baseball? And now all of them have to open up clubs just to be relevant because nobody wants to go play Legion baseball, it seems like, in these bigger cities because they get frowned upon. We got to stop that. You got something to play for, right? Like you got your district. I think we were District 10. Dolman Booth was District 10. We had that event. We had Baldwin and Creve Coeur and man, it was tough. Manchester, I think, was in it at the time. And of course, Post 213, which I still hate. And I'm buddies. One of my very good friends was 213's pitcher, man. And they had some guys, Scott Cooper's little brother played in that, who played for the Cardinals and the Red Sox. And I mean, man, I just hated guys. Only when they were on the schedule. Other than that, I found a way to hang out with them. But I could tell you the week leading up to it, I was not a fan. And nowadays it seems like kids can play these tiddlywinks and just, it's cool, man. Like, let's play some grab ass stuff. And then we'll go out and we'll smile and high five you after hitting a home run off me. I'm like, dude, get out of here. The next guy's getting ear holed. If you run around the bases acting like a jackwagon. I think that's where I miss as an old coach. I don't like none of the drip, if you will, in the sport today. And I'm learning. I'm getting better because it is a part of today's game. So if I want to be relevant, I gotta kind of accept it, but still under my culture, right? And the ways that I'm building. So Dylan, I should say Coach Dylan or Coach Black, whichever one you like, Coach Jeremy, I appreciate you guys hopping on here and talking just Legion baseball. I know that some of it was geared towards Festus, but at the end of the day, you guys are big fans of Legion baseball, both played it, and I think people need to understand Legion baseball is alive. We just need to be more open-minded and what this could do for us here in St. Louis and St. Charles County. Would you guys agree?
Absolutely.
Man, thank you. Good luck to you guys. Have a good rest of your winter and getting those Festus kids prepared. I'm sure that we'll find a game or we'll talk about them at some point because you got a good Tigers program down there for Festus High School. So appreciate you guys, and you have a good rest of your Tuesday.
Okay. See you soon.
Thank you
for having us.